Subhanallah walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsan ila yawmiddin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Amma ba'd, faqad qala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fil Quran al-Majid, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Inna Allah ashtara minal mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi anna lahumul jannah. Sadaqallah wa nahnu ala dhalika min ash-shahidin wa shakirin. My dear respected elders, brothers and sisters, and my dear beloved children, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah, we praise Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who out of His infinite wisdom and blessings have made us Muslims. Out of the special favors of Allah, He has guided us towards Islam. And being a Muslim, it is something that we understand to be very easy. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions in hadith, ad-dinu yusrun, that the religion, it is easy. Our deen, al-Islam, it deals with all aspects of our life. It deals with all aspects of our existence in this earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has given us life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has also sent that guidance that will direct us and guide us with respect to our existence on this earth and in carrying about all of our duties. My dear respected brothers and sisters, each and every one of us engage in mu'amalaat on a daily basis. We engage in some form of mu'amalaat on a daily basis. We may not even recognize what we are doing. We may not recognize even that these actions that we are engaging in falls under mu'amalaat. But yes, we are engaging in mu'amalaat every day. Now what then is mu'amalaat? Inshallah, we will be doing an introduction of this topic, as Maulana mentioned, that there will be further discussions and panel discussions, lectures, workshops, etc., classes that will go into the details of what mu'amalaat entails. But today is for us to get an overview of some basic concepts with respect to the topic. Mu'amalaat, in Arabic, it comes from the verb amala, which really means to deal with, to transact with, to contract with, to have some sort of operation with someone. So therefore, we have dealings with one another on a daily basis. We have transactions that take place on a daily basis. And there are different and various forms of transactions. We engage in contracts, in doing our jobs. We are hired or we hire. All of that comes under mu'amalaat. We marry And we have the responsibility of giving dowry, the distribution of wealth. Like when a person passes away, all of these things fall under the topic of mu'amalat. But Islam has prescribed for us, just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown and given us the importance of our ibadat and our salah, etc. We know how to pray. We learn the ritualistic practices of salah, when to say what, when we have to recite Quran, when we have to recite tasbih, what do we say when we go down in ruku and sujood, how do we end the salah? And all of us, mashallah, are well aware of many of the practices, and we try to better our salah. However, sometimes we may be hearing this term mu'amalat even for the first time for some people. But what place does mu'amalat hold in the Sharia of Islam? Remember, we are Muslims, and as Muslims we submit to Islam. And we submit not in part, but we submit fully to Islam. So we need to know, what part does mu'amalat has for us? What part does it hold in Islam? What is the significance of it? Is it something that perhaps is a nafil? If you want to do it, you could do it? Or like a sunnah, and not like a farz or wajib? You know, we could relate to these type of things. First of all, we need to understand certain concepts. And the first concept that I would like for us to understand in this topic is that of Islam as a complete way of life, and where does mu'amalat fits into that? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has completed for us our deen. Many a time you would hear the ayah of the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakumul islam deena. Al-yawma, this day, I have perfected for you your religion. وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي, and I have completed my favors upon you. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا, and I am pleased that Islam, this way of life, it be your deen, it be your way of life that you will follow. This verse teaches us that Islam is a complete way of life. If we want guidance in this existence, in this phase that we are going through, which we call dunya, then where do we get it? We get it from Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum, I have completed for you your religion. And then, this religion of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us what we must do with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to you and I, speaking to all of the Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Udkhulu fi silmi kaffah, wa la tattabi'u khutuwati shaytan. O you who believe, enter into Islam. Submit to Islam. How? Kafatan, wholeheartedly, totally. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, and do not do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ مُبِينٌ, certainly the shaitan to you is an avowed enemy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has completed for us our religion. Everything that we need to know for our life in this world is in Islam. The next verse is telling us, in which Allah commands us, you need to enter into Islam. You want this guidance? You want this completed way of life? You want to achieve success? Then you need to enter into Islam. And how do we enter Islam? Wholeheartedly. not like how the Jews would have done it, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reprimanded them. أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ? Is it that you are accepting some part of Islam and some part of religion, and you are rejecting some part? We do not do like that. We do not say, سَمِعْنَا وَعَصَيْنَا, we hear and we disobey, but rather, our approach to this deen should be, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا, we hear and we obey, O Allah. We hear your call, we hear your instructions, we hear the way of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we learn of your deen, O Allah, and we are willing to obey, we are willing to submit. So this is what we are required to do. So then, when we speak about Islam, we are speaking about everything. How many times you hear about people making comments like, boy, this man is in masjid all the time, but don't go by him to do business at all, because he will cheat you, he will rob you, he will give you short on the scale. Muslim, in the sunnah, attending salah in the masjid. So in the masjid, mashallah, he is very good. And we encourage a person to constantly be there and always do the amal that are required in our ibadat. But there's a different part of his life when he leaves the doors of the masjid. A person may be a taxi driver. He goes to the masjid. But on the road, the way he speaks, the way he behaves, he wants to charge people extra for a trip that would cost $5. He's saying, you know what, this road bad, give me $7 today. A person is in the masjid, but then when he is taking a taxi, the normal charge or the fee for one point of the trip to another is $5, but he hands the driver $3 and runs out before he could even say anything. I'm sure we have heard many cases like this. A person, mashallah, he is doing his ibadah, he is fasting, he has gone for Hajj too. But you know what? When it is that he goes to the market, he is bargaining and bargaining. And when the person made the deal that this is the amount, he takes extra and puts it on the scale when the person is not looking. This is our dealings with one another. And these are just some basic example of what is covered under the topic of mu'āmaalāat. You understand it? So, does it pertain to you and I? Yes, it does. We are engaged in these things every day. Simply going to the shop and buying a soft drink or buying a loaf of bread, we are engaging in dealings, in transactions. It is covered under the topic of mu'āmaalāat. But what I am highlighting here, my dear respected brothers and sisters, are some practices that people do, but they try to make certain parts of their deen complete. Their salah, they try to do, alhamdulillah. They fast in the holy month of Ramadan. They would go for Hajj. They would pay their zakah. And what we say is that they are fulfilling some aspects of deen. But is it that the complete of deen? We say no. It is not the complete of deen. Many of the ulama and the scholars, Mufti Taqi Usmani has written that there are 5 main branches of deen. 5 main branches of deen, for which each part has great consideration and a significant portion of Islam in itself. And he explains that just as people will make all the emphasis and they will try to learn about their salah, and that they would do their best to ensure that when they go for Hajj, they do everything properly, and they pay the zakah, and fast in the holy month of Ramadan. You see, all of these things are just covered under one main part of our deen. That part which is called ibadat, worship. What are the other parts? If the things that people normally do is only covered in one part of deen, which is like 1/5 of deen, what is the other 4/5 of deen? Where does all of these other things come from? And how do we stand with respect to our practicing of Islam completely? When Allah has commanded us, udkhulu fis silmi kaffa, enter into Islam wholeheartedly, completely, not just 1/5 of deen. When Allah says enter into Islam completely, it is not about just only our salah, our fasting, and our zakah, and our hajj, but it refers to all parts of deen. So what are these other parts of deen? The other part of deen that we consider one is that of aqidah and beliefs. How is our beliefs? Are we sure that our beliefs are intact? Are there things that we believe in because we have grown to the custom and culture, and we probably would have learned from others who we associated with, that borders around shirk and ascribing partners unto Allah? Doing certain practices that our fathers and forefathers may have done, which are not according to Islam, which have mixed up with beliefs of other people, adulterated with shirk and ascribing of partners unto Allah. What are our beliefs concerning Allah, concerning the prophets, the books of Allah, the angels, the last day, Qiyamah? What are our beliefs concerning these things? So therefore, just as we would make the effort to learn about our salah and our ibadat and so on, we need to ensure our beliefs are in order. That is one part of our deen. So we need to learn. We need to make sure that our knowledge is correct about these things and our belief is correct concerning these things. Inshallah, remember, our belief is one of the most important things. A person becomes a Muslim with the correct belief. Understand that? And they can come out of being a Muslim if their beliefs are not correct. Even though they may perform in salah and doing all the other actions, if their beliefs are upon shirk and it is kufr, then they are not Muslims. As simple as that. So we need to also ensure our beliefs are in order. Another part of our deen is that of ibadah, and we mentioned about that. Our salah, our hajj, our zakah, all of those type of things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us. Actual commands that we need to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the pillars of Islam, those things are ibadat, worship. We need to make sure that is intact. It makes us closer to Allah, it safeguards us from punishment of Allah. It causes us to become closer to Allah with taqwa, etc. Another aspect of our deen is what we refer to as being mu'āmaalāat. Mu'āmaalāat, it comes from the word ashara, which means to treat kindly. وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ, Quran mentions, and treat them kindly, referring to women. How we relate to one another as human beings. Our social affairs, our social relationship to one another. Like for instance, the husband to the wife, fulfilling the haqq of it, being obedient to parents, children fulfilling their rights to parents fulfilling their rights to children, fulfilling the rights of the neighbors, dealing with people in the community, learning, how to deal with other people, that social relationship. It is part of our deen as well. And we need to learn about it. Okay? Then, another part that is sometimes often neglected is that of akhlaq. What is akhlaq? Character, morals, etiquettes. And we take our akhlaq from that of the best exemplar. Who was that? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Innaka ala khuluqin azim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, O Messenger of Allah, you are upon the most exalted of all character. Khuluqin azim. That is one part. And the part that we spoke about, which is the fifth, is that of mu'amalat, dealings. So we see where mu'amalat fits into the whole spectrum of the Sharia with respect to our dealings. The 5 things, quickly, is that of aqidah and beliefs. We have ibadat, worship. We have mu'asharat, social relationship. We have akhlaq, which is good morals and character, etiquettes and so on. And then we have mu'amalat, or dealings and transactions, contracts with one another. So we see therefore that mu'amalat definitely should be part of a Muslim perspective to learn and to practice. And when I say practice, I mean practice according to what Islam teaches us. We are already practicing certain parts. We engage in contracts. We engage in all of these different things, pledges, and so on. Money transaction, financial, dealings. But is it according to Islam? Is it in accordance with the teachings of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? My dear respected brothers and sisters, therefore we need to understand this aspect of Islam being a completed way of life. And a part of it is that of mu'amalat. So we get the first point here, that mu'amalat do indeed play a very important part of our deen. And when we consider the importance of it, I can probably cite a few examples from that of the seerah, from that of the Sahaba, to show us how it was applied. Let's consider this incident. Once, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, the second caliph of Islam, he was traveling, he was undergoing a journey. And on this journey, of course, they are journeying through what? Desert lands. The sun is hot, scorching. There's, of course, thirst and hunger and exhaustion. And it was the custom of the Arab that when they would travel and people would normally graze their flock during the grassy areas within the oasis and those areas within the desert, and there is travelers and passers-by, they would offer and extend their hospitality and give milk, understand, which was like a drink and a food at the same time. So Hazrat Umar, he was traveling, and out in the distance he saw that there were some sheep and he was exhausted. So he said, you know what, I will go and request that I get something to drink. So he went, he saw that there was a shepherd, he was herding the flock of sheep, and then he requested, say, you know what, I am exhausted, I am a traveler. He did not introduce himself as being Umar radiallahu anhu, and the person did not recognize him either. So he said, I am a traveler, I am exhausted, if you can give me some milk to drink. The shepherd now, he thought for a while, and then he responded and said, listen, if these sheep belong to me, I would have willingly given this to you. No problem. I would have willingly given this to you. Now what we are looking here is the dealing and the interaction between the shepherd and Hazrat Umar. He said, if it was mine, I would have given it to you. But you know what? I am hired to tend and look after the sheep, to graze the sheep, and I am not the owner of it. And I do not have the authority to give milk to anyone. So Hazrat Umar realized, mashallah, this person seems to have some extent of taqwa. And he responded correctly, because he is not the malik, he is not the owner of the property, and he cannot just give out of it. Okay? However, he said, you know what, I will test him to see to what extent he is willing to go with his honor of that contract that he would have taken when he was hired. So he said, listen, let's make a deal. So this was the test really to him. He said, you know what, the sheep is here in the wilderness, no one is seeing you, and I need milk. Let me buy one of these sheep from you. I'll give you money, and you give me the sheep. I will take the sheep along with you on my journey, and I can get milk whenever I want. It would help, satiate my hunger. And you would have money of your own. And the person who hired you, you can simply tell him, a wolf devoured one of the sheep. Okay? Now it sounds like a good plan, isn't it so? And let's put this in perspective of nowadays times. How many of us are hired to do a job, probably to transport something, and on the way our partner call us and say, listen, drop off a thing for me, a little thing there, sir, and they undertone it. Say, don't worry yourself, you go meet me by that junction, right? Quick pass across and that's it. Are we dealing honestly concerning matters of this nature? What about our job which we are hired to do in the office? Or our contracted obligations to do a particular project? How do we deal with it? Are we dealing with it honestly? Is it that when we sit in the office, we're supposed to do work for 8 hours, of course, with reasonable break and whatnot, without being overburdened? But instead of working for 8 hours, we work for 2 hours, and as we normally say, we lahe for the rest of the time. We waste time. Is this fulfilling our obligations, our contract? Who are we fooling? What about with respect to becoming like a middleman? Sometimes a person's a sales rep. You are hired to sell something. You sell it for $10, example, but you go back to the owner of it, the boss man, and say, you know what, I only get $7 in it. Dishonesty. Are we fulfilling our duty? I'm just giving some basic, simple examples in our everyday life. In this case here, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh was testing him to see how far would he go. MashaAllah, the shepherd, when he heard these words from Hazrat Umar, not knowing that he was him, he said, Ya hadha, fa'in Allah. Oh this, literally, oh this. Then where is Allah? In other words, what he is telling him was that, you are asking me to do something of this. Where is the Malik? Where is the true owner? The owner that you are saying is not present here, that is the one who owns the sheep. Then what about Allah, who is the Malik, the real Malik? He is Malik of this world, Malik Yawmiddin. Where is Allah? Is He not seeing us? Is He not fully aware of this situation? My dear respected brothers and sisters, this is one simple example of a dealing during the time of Hazrat Umar, and we learn that taqwa is part of our dealings, our mu'āmaalāat, dealings with one another, our contracts, our obligations. That if that is not there, then the door is open for cheating. The door is open for embezzling. The door is open, and shaitan, he would make things decorated for us. Zuyna linas. He has made things decorated in all different ways. And he would have given so much of excuse. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Take that money and go. Understand? But it was not the case here. Hazrat Umar, mashallah, was impressed by his answer, so much so that he commended him. And he said that so long as there are people like you, alhamdulillah, there will be no tyrant, there will be no oppressor, there will be, no wrongdoing. Because the fear of Allah, it is in the heart. And that is something that should be with us at all times. Fa'in Allah. Where is Allah? Isn't Allah looking at me at all times? In all of my dealings? So an important concept in mu'amalaat is that of fair, honest trading and dealings with one another. And as such, it must never be devoid of the taqwa of Allah. It must never be devoid of the taqwa of Allah. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions in a hadith, La imana liman la amanata lahu. There is no iman, that person is not the true believer, who is not trustworthy. Many a time a person has been given an amanat. This is a dealing, because a person might bring something to you and say, listen, you keep this for me. Understand? Keep this for me, I'll be back in a month time. And then I will collect it, and you agreed. That's an agreement. That's the type of contract. That's the type of covenant you would have taken. And then, when the person goes, we use it, and we abuse it, and we reuse it, and we dispose of it. And the person comes back and say, where is the item that I left with you? First of all, did he have permission to use it? Was that part of the agreement? Remember, many of these things with dealings has to come with agreement. And that's an important concept as well in mu'amalaat. agreement for certain things. Was there an agreement that you can use it? No. So therefore, did the person acted correctly by using that trust, that thing, or that wealth or whatsoever that was left in his care when he was absent? When the owner was absent? He acted wrongfully, isn't that so? So the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying that the consequence of betraying such trust, he said, La imana liman la amanata lahu, that there is no iman, showing seriousness of it, for that person who does not fulfill his trust. Some also at another hadith that mentions about the signs of a hypocrite. He mentions 3 signs. The Rasul mentioned, Ayatul Munafiq Thalatha. The sign of a hypocrite are 3. إِذَا حَدَثَ كَذَبْ, that whenever he speaks he lies. وَإِذَا تُؤْمِنَ خَانَ, whenever he's entrusted with something, he breaks the trust. وَإِذَا وَعَدَ خَلَفْ, or كَمَا قَالَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ, and when he makes a promise, he breaks the promise. These are the signs of a hypocrite. We need to reevaluate our own selves. As I said today, the objective is not to really go into depth in all of these things, but to highlight areas in which this whole concept of mu'amalat touches. There was another incident, and again we see the part of fulfilling covenant, fulfilling contract, fulfilling the duties that we have, the dealings that we have with one another. During the time of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the battle of Khaybar, it was close at that time. There was another shepherd who was grazing sheep, and he ended up coming close to where the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam they were. And then he learned about Islam. He came, he wanted to meet the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when he was introduced to Islam, he accepted Islam. But he was herding sheep on behalf of a Jew. And at that time, when he accepted Islam now, he questioned the Rasul what to do. So it was not the time for Salah. So he said it's not time to pray. He said it is not Ramadan that you have to fast. You don't really have wealth to pay zakah. It's not the time for Hajj. But it was close to the time of battle. So therefore, yes, you can engage and strive fi sabilillah in that effort. But the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, before you can do that, you must fulfill your obligation. What was that obligation? The sheep, did it belong to him? No. He was contracted, basically, to look after the sheep. And he was grazing it. And now that he have accepted Islam, even though the Battle of Khaybar to some extent was against the very same people, the Jews and whatnot, at that time, and you have possession of them, and booty is a part of our deen as well, that was not something that became permissible at that time. Why? Because this individual had a contract to fulfill. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, you cannot join until you go and you return all of this to its owner, first of all. Now, we are seeing an aspect of dealing and wealth. If it is that you cannot do a job, part of our dealing is to make it clear and make it known. Isn't that so? You have been hired to put up a wall, and when you look at the wall, you say, but I can't do this enough. Still do it? Put up bend, do it halfway, and then take the money and go? No. If we cannot do it, be honest and say, I cannot do it. Understand that? There are so many instances of such regard that we can cite. Many people say, everybody who hold a trouble nowadays is a mason. You understand? Because if you say he's a mason, you get more money. Understand? But they can't even spell mason, far less to become a mason. Understand? The point here is that we need to fulfill our duties as indicated. And if we cannot do it, part of our dealings we need to actually, inform, clarify, make things clear, or reduce the price. If it is that you are asked to put up 4 levels of bricks, and you only put up 3 and say, yeah, that's good, and then you demand the same amount of money, you are doing short work for the same price. That is against the concept of mu'amaalāat, fair dealings. Understand? So is it part of our daily life? Yes, it is. Do we encounter it on a frequent basis? Yes, we do. So therefore, again, the point here is to emphasize we need to learn more about mu'amalat. Understand? So in this particular case, the Jew, he fulfilled his amanat. He fulfilled his trust. Even our words sometimes, if it have consequences, like a promise, it should be considered as part of our mu'amalat and our dealings with others. Once it involves certain consequences, like a promise is like a contract that a person is making. Perhaps it's not written. There was an incident when just before the Battle of Badr, which Hudhayfa bin Yaman, and he had a very high status with Rasul. He was the confidant of the Rasul. Many secrets was told to him, Hudhayfa bin Yaman. He was in Makkah, and he was leaving Makkah, going towards Medina with his father. And on the way, he was intercepted by Abu Jahl. Who is Abu Jahl? You know him to be one of the great oppressors and leaders from amongst the Quraysh, amongst the Arabs, amongst the disbelievers. So he caught him, and he asked him where it is that he was going, and he said that he was heading towards Medina. He just wanted to meet the Prophet ﷺ. Now, after a certain amount of dialogue, he was allowed to leave. He was allowed to leave. But prior to leaving, Abu Jahl took a sort of an oath from Hudhayfa that he will not fight against them. He said, I am allowing you to go based on a pledge and an oath that you will not fight against us. So Hudhayfa bin Yaman, with his father, he left, and they reached Medina. And of course, it was a joyous occasion for him. He met the Rasul ﷺ, but that was on the brink of Badr. And many of the Sahabas, they were going, and Badr marked a very important turn in Islam. One of the main battles that took place, the first battle that took place. So Hudhayfa bin Yaman wanted to go. He wanted to go and fight. So he had this discussion with the Rasul ﷺ, who asked him what transpired, what happened, and then Hudhayfa bin Yaman explained to him that he gave his word that he would not fight against him, and it was because of that he was allowed to leave. He said, Messenger of Allah, he's a disbeliever, they are going to fight against us, and they are oppressing us, so therefore would it not be allowed for us for me to go and fight too? The Prophet ﷺ, he told him that you are not allowed to go and fight because of this pledge and this oath that you would have taken that you will not fight against them. Subhanallah. This is the extent of the dealings that we have. Sometimes in our business transactions, in our interaction with one another, we make oaths and pledges. Yes, the word of a believer is good. The Quran has commanded us in many areas, in many places. Even when we are making, when we are taking loans and so on. إِذَا تَدَايَنْتُمْ بِدَيْنٍ فَاكْتُبُوهُ. When you take loans and you make contracts of loans and so on, فَاكْتُبُوهُ, write it down. But the word of a believer is truthful. If he says so, it should be so. Sometimes we have our contracts and our business dealings with one another, and a brother tells us, or a sister says to our next one, yes, you are my word, I will do it, or I will be there, I will fulfill my obligations, I will pay so and so when the job is done. And when the job done, and the person is demanding the agreed amount, then the person says, where that is in writing? Show me it in black and white before you get a cent from me. I want to see it. Of course, you know that it is not there. Or he looked at it and say, but I thought this thing could take a whole week. How come you finish it in 3 days? If you had agreed for 1,000, I'm going to give 700 then. Isn't this song like things that we just hear on a daily basis? Yeah. We give our oath, we give our word, and then we break it. So easy. Muamalat deals with these concepts, how we should behave in contractual agreements. So this is another example. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. Let's look at, and I'm showing from the seerah, so that you can understand in Islam it dealt with these things. And we are looking at different times. During the time of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during the time of the Sahaba. We know that Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, he was the one, mashallah, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to conquer Jerusalem, Baitul Maqdis. He went there, the city was basically handed over to him. He fulfilled the duty of being like the governor and in charge of Baitul Maqdis. And because of the normal Islamic law and arrangements, you're going to have the non-Muslim now living in safety. They are protected from attacks that may be coming in, from any sort of problems. And at the same time, they benefit from the infrastructural development that will be taking place within the city. And for that, the Sharia has made it a duty that, of course, you will take jizya, which is sort of a service tax, from them for the purpose of giving them protection, and for the duties that are normally performed. Normally, everybody is paid tax when they're working, because we contribute towards the development of the country by means of that. I'm not commenting whether it is permissible or not. I'm just saying that we understand the concept. Now, it was close that the Muslims were preparing again to defend themselves from an oncoming war, battle that required those Muslims who were in Baitul Maqdis to probably leave their position in protecting the city and perhaps leave and go out as well. You understand? So it was upon such a time that they may have had to leave. And as such, it would have compromised the safety and protection that was due to those who were in Baitul Maqdis in Jerusalem. Understand the situation. Now remember, the Jews and the Christians, they would give the jizya on an annual basis. And it was in this situation here now that the Muslims, they were actually sort of preparing themselves and probably anticipating that they may have to leave. So because of this, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, he then went and he spoke to the Jews and the Christians and he informed them. And he told them that because of the responsibility of the state to protect the believers, to protect the Baitul Maqdis itself and the Muslims' interests, they may be leaving the city, and in this pursuit, there may be a compromise in the protection that was promised to you all. First thing he informed them. That's the first thing. Secondly, they were paying the jizya for a level of protection for themselves within the city. And now that it was not going to be provided, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, he told them that this amount will be refunded to you. Understand this? This is the part that we are speaking about. If you are unable to fulfill something, then what has to be done? You do what is the correct thing here with respect to the wealth, and if you cannot fulfill the duty, you pay back. Understand? If we have been contracted to do something in a particular way, and we gave the assurance that we are able to do so, and then at the completion of the job, it is total chaos, it is not how it's supposed to be, then we are responsible. We either purchase back the material or whatever, or we pay a compensation for it. This is Islamic dealings. We don't just take and say, here, this is yours. Or I done it already, give me one, let me go. And if you don't want, then you're going to get some gangs or whoever to come and deal with the situation. That type of dealings. That type of dealing is not allowed in the Sharia as well. Understand? So, we understand some aspects. So, I think we have a good idea with respect to some of the areas that mu'amala deals with. Simple situation that you may have, for instance, where a person gets married, he has his wife, he promised to give her a dowry. Let's say $5,000. And you know what? After marriage, he said, nah, you over that already. You don't need that. And she said, yeah, well, it's my, it belongs to me. He said, well, what you have is mine, and I have it already. Understand? So, but Islam has informed us that that belongs to her. It is her wealth. And it becomes a dine and a loan that he must give to her. In Muamalat, it teaches us to fulfill the obligations that we have concerning these things. Understand? Our next important concept that we must have, my dear respected brothers and sisters, is the concept of wealth. The concept of wealth. If we do not have a proper understanding of wealth and ownership, then you know what? I work hard for it. This is my money. This is my property. It belongs to me. I can do whatever I want to do with it. Who is he? Who is this imam? Who is this alim, this scholar, this mufti to tell me what to do? Understand? It's mine. Many a time people, they behave in this manner. When they hear the law, they say, it's my money. I could do whatever I want with it. On the other hand, we use the law conveniently. If Islamic law means that we can get more money, we go towards the Islamic law. And if the Islamic law is not fulfilling that basic need, well, you know what? Let me jump ship. Let's see what the legal law has about it. What the country say about it. What I can get using the law of the land. And we desert and we jump ship, so to say. And I'm going to adopt this now. Okay? And you're calling this is your right. As believers, we need to understand the proper concept of wealth. Because in Muamalat, Allah deals with wealth transactions, with wealth dealings. How do we deal with these things? And for this, we need to go back to some basic concepts. The first concept is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of everything. Do we deny that? We all agree with that, isn't that so? That Allah is the owner of everything, isn't that so? Yes? MashaAllah. Thought nobody was here. Right? So, we all agree that Allah is the owner of everything. First thing. The second thing is that if Allah is the owner of everything, then He determines how things should be. He determines how we should use. He determines how we should deal with it. But it is not like a forced type of obligation that we have. Because we are believers. And becoming believers, we underwent a type of trade. We underwent a contract, an oath. What is this? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. That belonging to Allah is whatever in the heavens and whatever in the earth. So whatever we have is on the earth. Understand? It belongs to Allah. And then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being the Malik, He now has made a bargain with us. A trade with us. In that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expresses, He mentions in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. That Allah has purchased, He has bought, He has traded with the believers, أنفسهم, themselves, وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ, and their wealth, for what? بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ, that they will receive Jannah, that they're going to get Jannah. So when you and I, we recite kalima, or we profess to be a Muslim, and we believe in La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, we are really saying, oh Allah, You are my Rabb. There is no one worthy of worship but You. Oh Allah, I accept this bargain that You have made with me. Allah has purchased from the believers. When we say kalima, it's as though Allah now owns our bodies. He owns us. And He owns our wealth. Yes, He is the overall owner of everything. But looking at the aspect that we can understand now, and the aspect of trade that we can relate to and dealings, Allah is saying, Inna Allah hashtara min al-mu'minin. Allah has purchased from the believers anfusahum wa amwalahum, themselves and their wealth. بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. In other words, you want Jannah? This is Jannah for you. But you know what? You have to give me your wealth, you have to give me your life. You have to give me your desires. You have to give me your wants. You have to give me all of your interests, everything, your ego, everything, give it to me. And this is your Jannah. But giving it to someone like Allah and submitting to Allah, it is good. Because Allah is Ahkamul Hakimin. He is the best of all the judges. He possesses, all of those qualities. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having control of our lives and our wealth, then when we become Muslim or we believe in Him, in that all of us want Jannah, is that so? So we want that, we become Muslim, we are willing to submit to Allah, we recite Kalima, we try our best and fulfill our duties, but the concept now comes to the wealth. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also the owner of the wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, has now entrusted us and said, listen, oh my servants, here, you need something to continue in this world, to engage in your dealings, to buy things, to invest, all of these things. You can use this wealth, but there are guidelines for this wealth to be used. If you have this amount, which you call the nisab, for instance, and concerning zakah, if you have this amount, this minimum amount, which is called the nisab, then you must pay zakah of 2.5% of the total wealth. This is like keeping the wealth pure. It's an entrustment that I have given to you, this wealth. Right? You need to do sadaqah with it. You give in charity. It's as though we have already given everything back to Allah, but now He has entrusted us with the usage of this wealth in a certain manner, with certain guidelines, with certain regulation, with certain laws. So if it is, for instance, my dear respected brothers and sisters, that for instance, you have purchased something from me. I give you, let's say I purchase, a book. Okay? I am saying, or rather, you purchase a book from me. I am the person who is selling. You purchase the book from me. I am now getting money, and you get a book. And then I tell you, you know what? This $10 for the book, I don't really need it now. I'm giving this back to you. Use it now. Use it properly. But I want you that this wealth, that you utilize in such a way that you fulfill the rights of that wealth. This is in effect what has happened. We have already handed over technically to Allah everything with our shahada. Allah is the true owner of it. He has now given us an entrustment with that wealth to be utilized according to His laws. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a law and said 2.5%, we should not feel, oh, so much of my money. No. Allah is the one who has given us the wealth. You have already made that trade with Him. So 2.5% shouldn't be a problem, because He could take away everything if He wants. Understand that? When it is that we hear inheritance and you have to distribute wealth, and you know what? Part of the distribution of the wealth is that you have to give a certain amount of wealth to your brother, but you don't like the head, as we say. I would have preferred it to go to somebody else. Some people say, I'd rather give a stranger than to give my own brother. But Allah is saying that you have to give your brother. Understand? Based upon the laws of inheritance and the distribution of wealth. Who are we to make a judgment upon the wealth that Allah has given to us? Sometimes, like for instance, the mother may get 1/6. The father may get 1/6 of the wealth. But she big house already. She living by herself. She have everything. Why have to still give she 1/6 already? I'm not eating she food anymore. Understand that? So we tend to think that you are in control, and therefore you should also determine what should be done with your wealth and the distribution of it. The concept is that the wealth belongs to Allah. So Allah now is telling us, listen, my servant, this wealth that I have entrusted you with, you have to give 1/6 to your mother. End of talk. Understand that? The wife, if the husband dies, she may get 1/8 or a quarter. Understand? She may get 1/8 or a quarter, depending if they are children or not. So now in this kind of concept, the wife will say, well, if the husband dies, all the rest is mine. And if I don't get it, you know what? I go in legal. Half for me. But Islam has already given us the remedy for that. Allah, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we study inheritance, we realize that an amount has to be given. Whether you like it or not, we have already decided that we have submitted to Allah our wealth and our lives. Allah is now telling us, you see this wealth that you have here, this has to be given to her in a certain proportion. We do not have a say in that because this is the law of Sharia. Understand my point? If we understand this concept of wealth, we realize, something, I don't really own anything. And that's the truth. When we die, how many people do we see taking all the bank account, the money, we withdraw it, family withdraw the amount that we have, and then throw it inside the grave with us? Does that happen? No. You know what do we say when a person dies? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Certainly we are from Allah, and to Him everything return. To Him. Because our lives, our wealth really belongs to Him. So it is returned back to Him for judgment, for whatever condition that we may exist in. So with this proper concept of wealth that doesn't really belong to us, it allows us to a little more flexibility and appreciation of saying, yes, I have no problem. If this is Sharia, and this is what Islam tells me that I must do with respect to the distribution of my wealth, then alhamdulillah, I am ready to submit. Sami'na wa a'ta'na. I hear, we hear, and we obey. To say no is following the people of the book, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers to be maghdub. Anger has been placed upon them, that they say, Sami'na wa asayna. We hear and we disobey. So this is a simple example of inheritance. We give an example about divorce. There is trade. There is fair dealings. There is contract. There is promises that we make. How do we deal with all of these things? Sometimes we deal with people unfairly because they may not have some standing in society. Like for instance, a person may be in a real dire strait, difficult situation. He has, he has to really get some cash or wealth or something in order to meet ends, or for some important surgery or operation or something of that nature. So he's in a position, isn't that so? And sometimes we can relate it. But he has a vehicle. And in this situation now, he has to sell the vehicle. A person may know of this situation, and whilst the vehicle, the market value is just $40,000, because of his situation and he needs it immediately, you want to give him $30,000. Take it or leave it. You can afford the 40, no problem. You can afford more than that. But what we do? Sometimes we take advantage of others in our dealings. Unfair practices in dealing with one another. Mu'amaalaat addresses how we deal with people in this type of situation as well. Understand? There are certain adab and etiquettes. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, he mentioned this as one of his examples. That it is against the adab and etiquette of mu'amalat that you now go and underprice him and give him, and because of his situation, he has no choice. Nobody else wanted, nobody needed a vehicle, and he's right away, he's getting a sale for it. But instead of the $40,000, you want to give him $30,000 only. Understand? And say if you don't want it, well, you fix up now. You understand? What should have been done in true Islamic spirit is to give him even more. Understand it? Now, in mu'amalat, there are guidelines how we deal with things and do things. So there are guidelines how we deal with things. And if it is that these guidelines are not done properly, we may engage in what we often hear as what? Riba. Isn't that so? We may engage in riba or interest. There is believers in Makkah, they used to say, Innamal bay'u mithlu riba. That trade and riba is the same thing. Innamal bay'u trade, it is similar to that of riba. It's the same thing. Usually, in other words, if I give you $10 and you give back $12, right, $2. If I sell something for $10, so if I buy something for $10 and I sell it for $12, what's the extra amount? $2. Isn't that the same? So they used to compare riba and interest as being the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made trade halal, and He has made interest and riba haram. Clearly. So yes, there are definitions of riba. What type of transaction involved in riba? You understand? Recently, everybody get excited about changing money in the bank. Some people who had a lot of money that probably they took out from inside the mattress that they can't account for, or they dig up the hole, okay? There was black marketing. Some, we have been, you hear people talking that this is possible. And instead of, you like a person have a 10,000, and next person tell them, give them, listen, I will give you 9,000 of the new dollars for 10,000 of the old dollars. How do you call that? Riba. Isn't that so? Yeah. It was happening not too long ago. Everybody was in excitement for money. People got frightened. They started to burst up the money because they can't account for it. Yeah, it was a report of a person. He actually had an extra $15,000 and he ended up bursting straight in the river because he's afraid that he can't account for it because he had it for so long. But nevertheless, the point about it is that we need to learn proper business transactions that we don't engage in riba. If you have 1 pound of dal for 2 pounds of the same dal, then that extra pound is riba. If it's trade at the same time, you understand what I'm saying? So therefore, we need to learn about these concepts. As I said, today's discussion is not to go into any one particular topic. We're not going to talk about trade and riba. We're not going to all of the details because that's a long dealing. We're not going to go into the aspect of distribution of wealth like inheritance and whatnot. We're not going to talk about ethics of dealing and contracts in full. But what we have done so far, my dear respected brothers and sisters, to quickly recap, we have identified the great importance of mu'amalat as part of our deen. You understand that how many parts are there? Let me see if you all are 5 areas. MashaAllah. You all paying attention. And mu'amalat is one of it. People often would spend time in and emphasize on ibadat, and they forget the other parts. So just as we need to make effort in this, again I'm saying that we also need to learn about mu'amalat. It is part of our deen. We give examples concerning it. We understand the concept of wealth in Islam. Now we should have a better understanding, and we shouldn't feel it is so difficult to take out 2.5%. We shouldn't feel it difficult to pay the dowry after 2 years we get married. You understand? It is well if Allah decided that and the Rasul, then that becomes it. So we learn that wealth is really Allah's one. Property really belongs to Allah. He is the one who determines how we should use it. And our duty towards Allah is that we should submit. Submit. That we say we hear and we obey in all of our dealings, in all of our transactions, all aspects of deen. Not just only in mu'amalaat, but in our mu'asharat, in our aqidat, in our ibadat, in everything. Put our akhlaq and our character like that of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In conclusion again, I beg and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forgive all of us for our mistakes and our errors. We ask Allah to forgive us for our neglect and our not knowing in doing things, to overlook our faults. And we beg and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to that which is haqq, that which is truth, that there will be mutual agreement amongst us, that we will fulfill our duties towards Him, and that we will build the community of Islam and the ummah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam through our practicing of the complete of deen. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakumullah khairan.